Hey, and welcome to another episode of my Ask Me Anything video cast where I, Chris Clemens, try to answer your political questions. So, I've had a lot of questions regarding immigration policy lately, specifically the executive action DACA that the Obama administration put forth. So, with this particular question, I really do ask that you listen to the entire video before coming to a conclusion on my stances, because this is a very complex, both public policy issue as well as a moral issue, and I don't want you to get any misconceptions as I kind of walk through this issue. So, to start off with, basically what DACA did was there's about 800,000 individuals in the United States who were born here but do not have legal status because their parents did not come here legally. Or they've overstayed their work visas or what have you. So essentially what DACA did was prevent the U.S. government, our ICE agents, from deporting those individuals. Now, on a moralistic standpoint, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to take people who have never actually been to these other countries in their entire lives and send them there. They were born here, and as far as they're concerned, and as far as a lot of people are concerned, they are American citizens, and they are proving to be very productive American citizens. So not only is it not necessarily a very popular thing to want to deport those individuals, but it's also not a very moralistic thing to do. On the other side of the equation, though, is the other argument. The other argument really kind of stems from a encouragement of illegal immigration. The idea is if I am an illegal immigrant and if I'm somebody in another country and I want to immigrate to the United States, but I can't do so through the legal means, DACA is an incentive to essentially try to make it to the United States in any means necessary and have kids here so at least their kids may have a good life, so to speak. And what we don't want to do with our immigration policy is encourage more illegal immigration. So I do understand that side of the argument. And the other thing to mention is there's thousands of individuals every year who go through the process to get their legal immigration status here in the United States, and DACA is not necessarily fair to them either. So I understand both sides of the argument, and both things can be true at the same time. So that does make it kind of difficult to navigate the road ahead. Now, my real issue with DACA has to do with the fact that Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution gives the ability to Congress, our legislative branch, to dictate immigration policy. And this particular executive action dictates immigration policy. Thereby, it is an unconstitutional act on former President Obama's part. And I think, as most of you probably know, and you've gathered from my website and all of my postings on Facebook and so on and so forth, I am a constitutional conservative. So when President Trump decided to rescind this particular executive action, I did support his rescission of that action. It's the constitutionally prudent thing to do. Now, that does leave us in a situation where we have these 800,000 individuals essentially trying to figure out how to move forward. And we have, everyone in the country essentially waiting to figure out how this issue is going to be resolved. So on that note, one thing I want to mention is right now, President Trump has sat down with both Republican and Democratic leaders of the House and Senate, and they are currently working on a DACA bill. This is precisely what I was hoping was going to happen with this particular situation. After Trump rescinded it, he gave Congress essentially 6 months to put together an actual bill to make this permanent. Now, I don't necessarily support a permanent DACA amendment or law. And I'll explain why here in a second. But what is essentially happening with these negotiations, what is on the table, is DACA is going to be used as a bargaining chip to achieve several other things on the immigration side for Republicans. Trying to end chain migration, which is essentially where if you immigrate to the United States legally, you can bring your family with you. We've seen, on a terrorism standpoint, what that particular policy can bring. It's not necessarily great for our national security. There's also the issue of funding the border wall, which Democrats are not necessarily wanting to put that funding in there to give President Trump that win, but he is trying to, again, use DACA as a bargaining chip to get the funding needed to put a wall along the border and kind of secure our porous borders. The other thing that is being negotiated right now is our lottery immigration system. So we actually do have an immigration lottery. There are countries where not a lot of people leave to come here to the United States, and for those countries, we have essentially set up this lottery system. It's a random selection. It's not based on any criteria, so to speak. We don't know if this person is going to be good for our country, if they have the skills they need to come over here and do well in our economy and actually be a net benefit for us. So the immigration lottery is also on the table to get knocked out. Now, overall, when we start talking about DACA being added into this bill, what I think is going to happen and what I do support is a one-time DACA exemption. The idea that the 800,000 people that are here now, okay, you are free to stay in the United States and seek legal status. I'm totally fine with that, so long as it's a one-time only thing. Meaning if you immigrate in 2018 here and you have kids, those kids are not going to be able to use that DACA exemption, essentially. So and really the reason I support a one-time exemption versus an open-ended policy really comes down to that incentivization of illegal immigration. We don't want to incentivize people coming over here illegally. And that really kind of gets me into my overall views on immigration. I do not have a problem with people coming from all over the world to the United States and deciding to make this their home. We are a country of immigrants, 100% of us. None of us have family that were originated here in the United States. We've all come from Europe and Asia and South America and so on and so forth. So I am not anti-immigration by any means. And actually, I believe we need to make the process much simpler for people, especially people who might be, what we would consider migrant workers, instead of having them obtain migrant visas and then have to reobtain those visas after, a certain time period. What we should be focused on is, okay, we have an agricultural sect that actually does need some of these low-skilled workers to, be fruit pickers and vegetable pickers. We have roofing companies all over the United States who are using migrant labor to keep costs down so people can actually afford to put roofs on their house because it's not a cheap expense. And, we don't want those people being taken advantage of if they're coming here illegally. We want a legal means for them to come here, and it should be an easy enough process because these people don't have thousands of dollars to spend on lawyers to navigate this process. So overall, I think the immigration system needs to be simplified. I think some of our standards in terms of skilled labor need to kind of be changed around so that we can get some of these migrant workers in here permanently and can continue to reap the benefits of their labor, because a lot of times those are just jobs that most Americans will not do for the pay that's there, but we have an entire sect of people who are willing to do that work and try and make a better life for their families, for their kids, so that they can maybe be doctors and teachers and so on and so forth. So again, to recap, I'd like to see the chain migration and the immigration lottery go away. I think those are both really good ideas. I really do support a one-time DACA exemption, but it does not need to be open-ended and should not be open-ended. And I think we need to go on ahead and reform our immigration policy to make it easier to come in so people are incentivized to go the legal route. That just goes to protect those people as well as discourage illegal immigration. If it's easier to go the legal route than the illegal route, then people are going to choose the legal route, and that's what we want. So I appreciate the questions. I hope this answers the questions kind of regarding this issue, and I just want to remind everybody to check out my website. It is clemens4kansas.com. On there, you're going to find all of my policy stances as well as all of the videos from this series. And there's also places there for you to contact me, and eventually there's going to be a donate button. I still have to register with the FEC and the Kansas Secretary of State's office before I can start actually legally fundraising. So that is going to be coming here in the near future. So with that, take care, and I look forward to your next question.